Right now, because we're talking about all the teams, I got to talk about divisional teams and how they can get better. I already don't like this at all. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Titan Tavern, where all guests and fans are welcome. I am your host, Tristan. Now, everybody, grab your favorite drink and let's talk about some NFL news. And today, on our bracket of what are these teams going to do? Today, we are talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, just like their brethren in the AFC South, had a complete collapse after their bye week. Now, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars were favored to win the AFC South dominantly at the beginning of the season. And how the mighty fell. Starting off the season before the bye week, they were 6-2. However, after the bye week, they finished only winning 3 of their next 9 games, finishing at 9-8, choking away the division just like the Titans did the season before, and losing any chance they had at the playoffs. Now, with that, there does come a lot of questions about the Jags and what they need to do. Is it quarterback problems? Is it receiving problems? Is it defense? Is it offense? Is it coaching? Now let's all take a look and dissect what in the world happened throughout their season. Let's see what needs to be done. And of course, starting off, we will start off with the most predominant position and the most important as well in any sports. We will be speaking about the quarterback position. So if it isn't obvious, the Jaguars' passing game is a lot better than the Titans, but then again, that's what happens whenever you focus primarily on passing the ball. Of course, as it goes for passing, you just had Trevor Lawrence had a down season. I don't think this is any indication of what he's going to continue to be like. We've seen him play very good. We've also seen him play very, very bad. For example, the first half against the Chargers in the playoff game a few seasons back, throwing either 4 or 5 interceptions just in the first half, but then somehow coming back and beating the Chargers in just one half. We've seen him be clutch, but we've also seen him completely choke. However, I do not think this season is an indication that he is declining or anything. I just think it was just one of those years that you have as a player. Just a down season. I think he's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to be even better next season. As far as CJ Beathard goes, that's a good backup to have. Reliable, can stay healthy when need to, and won't throw the game away. And looking into the very next room on offense, we have the good old reliable running back room. Whenever you just can't pass the ball, what do you do? You give it to a running back, and man, do they have a good bell cow back from now on. And his name is Travis Etienne. Etienne ran the ball 267 times. Honestly, kind of like a miniature Derrick Henry if you think about it. Rushing for 1,008 yards with a long of 62. Scoring 11 times. And also, just like certain running backs from another team, fumbling the ball 0 times. This guy is an absolute must keep. He is absolutely a gem. I've been taking on 267 carries, over 1,000 yards, and just being able to be good not only in the rushing game but also in the receiving game, where he also had 58 receptions 58 receptions out of 73 targets for 476 yards. With 1 touchdown and 0 fumbles catching, this guy can hold on to the ball, and he's very good at what he is for this offense. He is going to be a key factor in them winning some games, especially next season whenever Trevor does have a bounce back season. I think he's going to do good. As far as running backs for anything else, I will say you do have to get better at making sure your quarterback is not running the ball. As much as I do like Trevor Lawrence as a passer, I do not want him running the ball 70 times. He did get 339 yards out of those 70 attempts and did have 4 rushing touchdowns. But I don't know. Unless my quarterback is like prime Cam Newton, Josh Allen, Michael Vick, I don't want them running the ball. Especially not 70 times. Or like Lamar Jackson, who just basically, with all those different quarterbacks, you got either big and bulky, like Cam and Allen, or you got big and fast, like Lamar and Vic. It's not to say that he isn't good at running. He is definitely good at it. Just got to question whether you want him actually running the ball 70 times, whenever he did get injured a few times this season. And of course, with the rest of your running backs, you have a Tank Bigsby running 50 carries for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gotta think maybe this was just more along the lines of a third down back. You got Dearness Johnson, 41 for 108. You got CJ Beathard even running the ball 8 times for 35 yards. Calvin Ridley, 9 for 23. Christian Kirk, 1 for 6. And then, of course, you got Jamal Agnew, 4 for -2 yards. And Matt Barkley, 3 for -3 yards. But more than likely, in all honesty, it's just a yard. Those were probably just kneel downs. But as far as it goes for running backs, though, Travis Etienne is your future for the next several seasons, and I can just see him just improving. He's great at the receiving game. He is great at the running game. He is going to be a very reliable weapon for Trevor Lawrence in this upcoming few seasons. Now on to the wide receivers and the offensive line. As far as wide receivers go, you have Calvin Johnson is going to become a free agent here soon. Is he going to sign back with the Jags? Is he not? More than likely what they're going to do, if they're smart and they can keep a second round pick this way, is let him walk and then assign him to a small deal. Because under the conditions for the trade with the Falcons, if they do extend him to a big contract, then the Falcons do get a second round pick. However, in all honesty, I don't know if Calvin Ridley even did enough to deserve a big contract. Basically, kind of like DeAndre Hopkins did in stat line. He finished with 76 catches from 136 targets for 1,016 yards. If you honestly look at his numbers to D-Hop's, they are very, very similar. They even finished with the same amount of touchdowns, ending at 8. Of course, he averaged 13.4 yards per game, 8 touchdowns, 59 yards was his longest. And he did have one fumble, but did not lose it. In all honesty, I think he is a good wide receiver 1, possibly wide receiver 2, especially depending on the team that he is with. He's a good wide receiver 1 for the Jags, and I think they should keep him, potentially only really to a good 2-year deal. I think is what's going to be offered to him, 2 to 3 year deal. He's not going to break the bank. He's not going to be like Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra St. Brown or any of those receivers. I think he's going to get a good chunk of money, but he's not going to be the sole free agent that everybody wants if the Jags do choose to let him walk. I think they should keep him just for a few years. Maybe he'll go down to a wide receiver 2, depending on how Christian Kirk is and depending on what they do with free agency and the draft. But you never know with some of these GMs. As far as it goes for your second leading receiver, Jags fans, you had Evan Ingram, who is having a career resurgence. And honestly was not looking good at all with the New York Giants. Many people were saying that he was a bust. But he was targeted 143 times this season and caught 114 of them. So he's very good with catching. And he's very good with getting loose because he is a pretty speedy tight end. He did get 963 yards, just under 1,000, averaging 8.4 yards per game for 4 touchdowns, long of 39. However, the one knock that you could say about him, but then again, with the people that he's getting targeted with, he did have 3 fumbles this season, and 2 of them resulted in turnovers. Then again, you're also getting targeted 143 times, and you're running the ball a lot after catch. Yeah, it's pretty expected that at some point you are going to drop it. Of course, both of them played all 17 games. However, you have for their next receiver, Christian Kirk, who has honestly been a very good acquisition for them. Very speedy, very good at catching the ball. Throughout 12 games, yes, missing 5 games, he had 57 for 85 for 787 yards, averaging 13.8 yards per game, with 3 touchdowns, a long of 57 yards. However, he did also fumble the ball twice, both of them resulting in turnovers. So with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram combined, you have 5 fumbles and 4 of them that you did lose. So they do have to work on ball security, that is for sure. However, that's not to knock on anything that he didn't get done. He is a very good receiver, and he is a dang good threat. You do have to get a pretty good DB on him, just to make sure that he doesn't break one. And of course, after those, you kind of start to see really the weakness of this team is primarily the fact that that Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk are amazing wide receiver 2s in most situations, but they don't really have a predominant wide receiver 1, nor do they have a predominant wide receiver 3. You have Zay Jones, played 9 games, 34 yards, 37 receptions. Yeah, I don't know why I can't speak all of a sudden. 34 receptions for 60 out of 64 targets, ending with 321 yards, 9.4 per game with 2 touchdowns. Now, of course, he could arise and become a good wide receiver 3. But in all honesty, looking through the stats, really, you've got Evan Ingram, you've got Calvin Ridley, and you've got Christian Kirk. You've got a very solid tight end, and you've got very good wide receiver 2s. And with Zay Jones and Jamal Agnew, you do have some good wide receiver 3s right there. Honestly, what I would say this team is missing from their offense is I would say they need either Calvin Ridley or Christian Kirk to show out next season. Either that, or they're going to have to target and get a really good wide receiver 1 if they do not choose to keep Calvin Ridley. However, I don't think it's just that. I think they need a good wide receiver 3 as well. This offense does heavily involve the tight ends, so maybe instead of going after another tight end, another wide receiver 3, you could target another tight end, somebody like Evan Ingram, who's good at catching the ball. Maybe one for blocking, because Evan Ingram is more of a catching tight end than a blocking. So maybe you target somebody that has a similar build and play style as George Kittle. And just kind of go from there for more of who you want blocking for you. Do you want a good blocker, or do you want a good catcher? If you want to increase the potency of this offense, I say you go after a good receiving tight end. Have 2 receiving tight ends. That is a very deadly threat on the field. As far as offensive line goes, I mean, really only 41 allowed this season, considering all the other offensive lines that we saw this season. They were pretty daggum good. And it's not like they didn't allow the running game to work too. It was good too. Honestly, I would just say just reinforce that line. Make sure you got good backups. Do not neglect it, because you do not want your star quarterback getting injured again. Because if he goes down, I'm sorry to say this, your season's done for if he goes down. I trust the power in the offense with Trevor Lawrence. But with anybody else, I don't think they could get anything close, especially with how this AFC South division is going. Because even as a Titans fan, I see the Titans personally as the fourth best team in this division. And I see the Jags at number 3. Personally, I think the Houston Texans are the number 1 team to beat in the AFC South. And I think depending on how Anthony Richardson is for next season, they're going to be number 2 or number 1. The Indianapolis Colts or the Houston Texans, this is their division to run for a while. And I hate saying that as a Titans fan. I'd rather watch the Texans run it. I don't want to see the Colts run it. I'd rather see the Jags run it, in all honesty. I got no spite towards y'all. I've got no hatred. 2 seasons ago, y'all kicked us out of the playoffs, but in all honesty, we were just going to get destroyed in the playoffs anyways. We were on a 6-game losing streak before your game. And yes, I know y'all are bitter about how this season ended, but gonna be honest with you, I think you would have had the same results as a lot of teams did. You would have made it to the playoffs, and then you would have fell more than likely to the Chiefs. Yeah, you would have been a wild card exit. As much as I hate to say that for y'all, yeah. But listen, we're in the bottom of this division together, so we can be brothers in that fact, and I'll accept it as long as we agree. Colts need to go down. But anyways, that is all for today, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you liked this video, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Of course, remember to pay your tab and tighten up, baby.